Hello, good people of the internet, and welcome back to Minecraft. I'm not in my survival world today. Shock horror. Instead, I am showing you something that I've built and that I'm extremely proud of, and it is, you can probably tell by the title, the Villager Storage Belt version 2. This is version 1 here, and let me just go through a couple of things which I didn't like about version 1 and that I decided to implement or upgrade in version 2. So, to load a villager, you would have a water stream at the top here, or anywhere really, and it would just kind of dump them down, and then either whenever you press the button, or you could open this trapdoor manually, not trapdoor, fence gate, the villager would drop into the belt. But there was nothing stopping that villager, oopsie, from falling into the storage belt if there were other villagers already in there. So you could end up with two villagers in the same space, and that's not good. Another thing which I didn't like was the unloading system. So if I didn't want a villager anymore, say if he stopped trading with me or whatever, I would have to press the button once to get him down into this bottom slot here. And then if you saw last video, you'll be familiar with this, but then you'd have to turn the water off, decide where you want him to go, and press or flick the lever usually to retract the pistons. But apparently he fell down anyway. So anyway, it wasn't very good. It was pretty rubbish, and I was not happy with that. So in version 2, one of my main goals was to do those to improve the loading and unloading. But also, when you have a villager here, it takes a little while for him to swim up. So you can't press the button again until this guy has swum up here, because otherwise, again, you'll end up with two villagers in the same place, and that's not good. So I really wanted to improve those three things, and that is what I've done. So to demonstrate the loading of villagers, I've got a few in here already, and all you need to do, it's really easy now, is pop a villager in this water stream, somehow. It doesn't really matter, I'll leave that up to you. But it detects whether there is a villager in this space, so the space that this guy would go into, and if there is, it won't let this guy through. But then if there isn't, and I'll press the button to show you here, he will drop down and enter the storage belt. And then you can press the button again, and he will just continue on, follow the rest of the villagers. So as you can see, pressing this button is a lot quicker, cycle-wise. So I have a villager here, and I want to send him on and get the next one. And I redesigned this completely so that the firing, or the villagers get up with a slime block instead of having to swim, which makes it a lot faster and a lot better. So as you can see, that fires him up, and already the next guy is here, and already I can press the button again. So it's literally, I can press the button as soon as this guy has stopped bouncing, which is then, and it's much, much faster than it used to be. Now say I don't want this villager anymore, he's stopped trading with me, he's a bit useless, and I want to get rid of him. All I need to do is press this button here, and it does much the same thing as the other button. It still opens and closes all of the fence gates, it still fires this guy up, but it very quickly switches the direction of the water stream. So what it does is opens the fence gates so that this guy moves on, then it switches the direction of this water stream so that it's flowing this way instead, and this villager gets sent out here, as I will demonstrate. So as you can see, he stayed in the belt. We got the next villager here, and that guy has been ejected. And I'll just press it again to demonstrate. It's really, really, really simple. Now, as you can see, I currently have two villagers in here, and I must say it looks really cool. But that's not meant to happen. It happened because there were two villagers waiting to enter the storage belt when I pressed the button, and they both fell in at the same time. Now, that is because the design doesn't encompass something to limit the number of villagers that can enter it. It easily could, but I think that should be more up to you. You could use the same principles as I've got down below for shortening the pulse. You could use more fence gates, or you might have a holding cell up somewhere else where pressing the button triggers a villager to come down and wait by this trapdoor. I don't think it's important to add it in the design, but it's something to keep in mind that the loading specifically just needs a little bit of extra redstone to make sure that doesn't happen. Alrighty then, I'll show you the redstone now. When you press this button, it activates this redstone here, which powers this block, which powers the piston. It also powers this redstone directly, and the piston, because it's powering that block. So the piston goes up, but just before it does, this repeater grabs the signal, and you've got yourself a 1 tick, actually 2 tick I think, pulse. That powers this redstone, which changes state, so that this observer observes the state change and powers this line up here, which powers all of the fence gates, and this fence gate here through that block. And then this observer sees the state change in this redstone and powers the line up here. Now, one thing I will quickly point out is that this fence gate does need to be level with the floor or the ceiling, this line of glass here. And that is so that when villagers from this top belt come along, they still get stopped because they are in between this line here and that line there. Because fence gates are 1.5 blocks high, that still works. But the reason I put it there was so that when they fall down and this fence gate is closed again, they don't bob back up whilst they're swimming in the water here, and they just continue along underneath that block as if it was glass. Now that just improves the speed of the cycle, because you don't get a villager bobbing there for a few seconds and you can press the button quicker. So that is why that is there specifically. The redstone for the loader here is really simple. All you've got is tripwires at the same level as the top fence gates. This one going into a block with a redstone torch on it, which goes into a block with another redstone torch on it, which goes into this block here, and all you've got is an AND gate. You need both of these torches off for this torch to turn on for this fence gate to open. So all that means is that you have to have a villager here and no villager here for this fence gate to open. The unloader is also nice and simple. All it is a wooden button. Now it's quite important that it's wooden so that the pulse is the right length. You've got a couple of redstone coming out of it, in fact 3 on this little L shape, and that just feeds directly into this block for the previous button for the pulse shortener, and that all does exactly the same thing. So that opens the fence gate first thing, and then there's a slight delay, and then it activates the piston by going into this block here, which is directly underneath it. So it goes through this block, into that redstone, into that block, powers the piston. The only other different thing is that just in front, or just above this redstone here, we've got 4 observers going into a block with a redstone on it, and then 2 dispensers. Now each of these have a bucket or a water bucket inside them, and what happens is they're both activated when you press that button. So a water source gets put here and taken away here so that the water flows that way, and then as soon as the button undepresses, this redstone turns off again. The observers detect the state change again and activate the dispensers again. And that very quickly switches the water stream flowing that way and then switches it back. So I'll press the button and actually show you that happening. There you go. So just in that block, the water is flowing the opposite direction, which is just long enough for the villager to get flushed out. Now, it's entirely up to you how you use this design. I think I would personally continue this on and have a central drop chute. So I'd have these lined up in 2 rows, and then all of them would come together and you'd have a central drop chute for killing your villagers, so it's kind of like a centerpiece to your storage room or whatever. And then for the loading, again, it's entirely up to you. This could literally be anything. You could have a vertical drop chute just here and they fall onto this fence gate. One other thing I will quickly state, similarly to version 1, I have gaps in the glass on this side, and I know there's an observer here, but you can still reach villagers when they're in these spaces. But I have gaps on the sides so that you can trade with them even when they're mid-belt. So you don't have to cycle the whole thing to get to a villager here. You can just come up the side here and trade with them where they are. So that just about wraps it up, ladies and gentlemen. Please feel free to use this design in your own world if you like it. To be honest, I'm really proud of it. It's very simple. It's quite basic. It's just effective though. Like, that's what I like about it. It works quite well, and I like it. So please let me know if you do use it, because it'll encourage me to keep making cool little contraptions like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!